Continue on, number 5, Ve'ishto, and his wife, with a darga, so there's a note that tells us it's going down in levels. Sarai, too, went through various pressures and preserved her dignity. Avram and his wife were true partners, as suggested by the shape of the reading mark. Here I had a little difficulty as to how the shape of a darga, maybe I am going to take the book, how the shape of a darga, a downward staircase, shows unified connection. Certainly, and again, we have the concept of levels, but usually we say darga is something that is going down. Sarai was certainly challenged to be brought to a lower level, and that was against her will, so I see the downwards there, but he's saying that she still maintained her height and her dignity, and it might be her height and her dignity despite what they tried to do to her. V'chol asher lo, and all that for him, with the tavir, with a stabilizing, sheltered note. Not only did Avram and Sarai experience the exile in Egypt, and all that for him he had obtained, but also the people enjoyed being back with Avram to be directed by him as expressed by the shape of the reading mark. So, again, I presume what we're saying is the followers that Avram had previously made when he was in the land of Canaan have rejoined him now, and they are reveling in the fact that their spiritual guide has returned to them, and that gives them a sense of stability. The Lot, and Lot lightly connected to what's come from before, mostly moving forward, and Lot accompanying Avram to Egypt did not have to go through any of the dangers, and he did not receive the Torah as specified by the directional shape of the reading mark. So Lot is going to move forward with a light connection in that he went with Avram and his party, but he really didn't do any of the other things there. He just sort of flowed through the experience and went forward to Imo, by him, number 8. Since Lot did not abandon Avram in the critical moments and stood by him, he received a small portion of land adjacent to Yisrael, as indicated by the closing shape of the directional reading mark. So he has a future of attachment to Avram and a future of closeness to him, but nowhere near the level of reward that Avram is going to get.
Is this the first time they mention that? Traveling with Avram?
No, it is mentioned. It was mentioned before. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Not immediately
I just don't recall.
coming to mind.
12:5. So Yud Beit Pasuk 5. וכך עבר מצרים אשתו ואת לוט בן אחיו וכל חושם אשר חשב. ואת הנפש אשר.
Oh yeah, and with Lot. Okay. So
one of us there is Canaan. Forgive me. That's Canaan. It's not Mitzrayim. Forgive me. I went back too far.
Well, that is the only time I see. Well, maybe they just assume because he's traveling with them.
We will see in a sentence in the future that Avram has a large amount of wealth, and Lot has a lesser amount of wealth. So it's going to come up in the next 2 or 3 sentences from here. And agreed, we don't explicitly have it detailed for us that Lot goes down. But, you know, that Lot comes up with him, so he must have gone down. Hanegba, towards the Negev, number 9, with the stabilizing Sof Pasuk. Thus the whole echelon of Avram moved simultaneously to the north towards the Negev. And again, this has the stability of being Avram's home base before he had left Eretz Canaan. So we're going to notice as we read through it that Avram and Mitzrayim, that combination is going to be elevated and be something that is celebrated. The first Tlisha, the Vaya'al, is going to connect to that, and the word Hu with the Tlisha Gdolah is going to pause us there and connect us back to what we had said. Avram and Sarai are going to be separated out because of the pause after the Tavir from Lot, who's going with him. Lot is going to have an attachment to Avram that is separate from the elevation and the attachment that Sarai has. And Hanegba, the land of the Negev, is going to stand by itself because it's a place of influence, and it's a place that has importance to all of those groups. It has importance to Avram, who has maintained and enlarged his status. It has an importance to Sarai and the people who she's influenced there. And it has importance to Lot only because he's peripherally connected to it. Lot's only connection to it is the fact that he's going to get land that's close by. Vayal Avram mimitzrayim hu vishto v'chol asher lo v'lo timo hanegba. It's sort of very striking as the word hanegba sort of stands there by itself, because the land is sort of influencing all of those groups in different ways. We are on, 13.2, page 27 at the top, and here we learn about Avram's possessions. The Avram, with the tipcha, backwards facing, slight pause afterwards. Without any difficulties, he reached his destination, and Avram came back to his previous position in the Negev, as referred backwards by the directional shape of the reading mark. He's going back to where he was before. And that's why we have the backwards facing note. And again, it focuses on Avram. It pauses after to say that he is at his place of previous greatness. Kaved, with a munach, abundant. Interesting translation of kaved. Kaved literally means heavy, but here obviously we're talking about possessions, so he has an abundant amount of possessions. At that time, he represented a unique power. Takif Lechada, which is Unkelos is translating it in, so a singular, elevated one is the way that you, I guess, translate the Aramaic. So he's a unique power because he regained his spiritual position in addition to having abundant material goods and prestige, as shown by the shape of the reading mark. So, separates himself out from most others who would be influenced by wealth, and continues to move forwards both with his wealth and with his spirituality intact. Me'od, with the stabilizing at the top. We missed a side note. Kaved, abundant, is related to kavod, respect. So we get the concept of Fiddler on the Roof. When you're rich, they think you really know. You know, when you have abundance, people give you respect. The other sort of secret of kaved is that it is something that allows something in the basest sense connected to the world to continue. So the other meaning of the word kaved is your liver. And it is basically the organ that allows you to do all the lower digestive functions. It literally keeps you alive. It is the liver. But it's connected to the lower part of you. It's what connects you to this world. So when we talk about Avram having a lot of possessions, that's his connection to this world. And when we say me'od, that his abundance, and he also has a lot of it, greatness. His greatness is that he maintained his spiritual character even with his kaved, even with what attaches him to this world. Bamikneh, with a zakef gadol, that's probably not very discernible here. That is the one line with the two dots next to it. This is a three-part note, possibly with one thing that is more elevated than the other. In the cattle, Avram became very wealthy because he had received substantial gifts from Pharaoh. In addition,
that was the mode.
That was the ma'od. Very. Avram became very wealthy because he had received. So this is the stabilizing at Naftah. Avram became very wealthy because he had received substantial gifts from Pharaoh, in addition to his previous possessions, as indicated by the stabilizing shape of the reading line. So this was more from before, and he had built on it and continued, and had not lost anything. So he had a stable base, and he added more. And again, that's the concept of Naftah, that you've got a stable base, and you've got more up on top of that. Bamikneh, with the Zakef Gadol, he was opulent in the cattle of various kinds, which at that time were significant for one's material possession in the society, as stressed by the shape of the reading line. So, because he's got different types of cattle, we have the two dots, the multiple, and we also have it being separated out from other types of wealth with the line that comes after the two dots. So this is the type of not only wealth, but wealth and status and what connects you to others who want to trade and deal with you. Bakesef, in the silver with the chipcha, connected back to that. Besides, his purchasing power was enhanced in the silver, which he could utilize for different transactions and payments, was donated by the reverse direction of the reading line. And the difference of what currency does for you, what kesef does for you, is it allows you to trade. And Bamikneh shows those around you that you have the wealth. By kesef, you can show it or you can hide it. So visible wealth and not so visible wealth, nonetheless, both allow him to trade. Uva zahav, and in the gold with the stabilizing sofasu. On top of his own valuables, Avram also became enriched through Sarai, who had enlarged her own reserves of jewelry and in the gold which she had received as gifts from Pharaoh, among other costly objects, as well as maids and servants. So this is wealth as a status sign, and that's what Sarai had gained. Sarai had gained status and importance that now made her a more public figure than just being attached to Avram. She now had status around her. So as we read through the sentence, we're going to see that Avram's name is going to stand alone at the beginning with the tipcha and the pause afterwards, and that's because he's connected to the whole story. And we're going to see that we are talking about that in the first phrase, that he's kaved ma'od, that he's got a lot and even more than he had before. And then we're going to define in the second half of the sentence the lower types of things that separate you from others, that can be that can be hidden or that can be public and showy. And each of those is going to stand alone. Bamikneh, Vakesef, Uvazahav, all of these three things are going to stand alone as singular entities. Ve'Avram kaved meyod b'mikneh vakesef uvazahav. And we're going to continue on. Vayelech. Because I'm almost sure that second note is a typo here. So this is a pashta on the first word, and he went. Avram returned from Egypt to the Negev, achieving new spiritual height along with a comfortable economic position, and he went for more activities to spread his concept of belief and conduct, as indicated by the double directional shape of the reading mark. So again, pashta normally comes on the last syllable of the word. If that is not the accented syllable, we get a second pashta that comes on the syllable that is in fact accented. So Vayelech has the accent on the yud, so we have a second pashta that appears there. So we get doubling here of Avram, and we imply direction with pashta, moving forward, moving up. So Avram is moving up to a new both spiritual and economic position, hence the doubled note. Lemasa'av, and this in mine at least is a typo. This should be a katon. This is the two dots on top of the ayin there, not a single dot. It is not a revi'i, it is a katon. We have an extra side note on the word Vayelech, and he went. Like the name of the Sidra, Lech Lecha, the expression Vayelech, and he went, indicates the basic Jewish concept of activity and progression in all conditions and circumstances, in contrast to the passive expectation of a chance. It was frequently exemplified by Yaakov. Vayetze Yaakov, Vayelech. Yaakov goes out of one place and he goes somewhere else. Or by Moses, Harem et matcha, lift up your staff, V'tei et etcha, stretch out your arm, or Hakem, Takim, you should surely raise. So again, each of these is a very active participant in the history that is created around them, rather than somebody who things happen to. Lima Sa'av, with the katon on it, for his journeys, number 2. So we're expecting a two-part definition here. While preparing for his journeys, Avram intended to maintain his old friends and implant his progressive ideas into the mentality of prospective followers, as pointed out by the bipartite shape of the reading mark. So he's got the old people who are with him, and he's trying to find new followers. Mi Negev, with the tipcha, so this is focused backwards and pausing slightly afterwards. The subject of his teaching was Avram's elevated spirit and the attitude he derived from Negev, as referred backwards by the directional shape of the reading mark. And again, we're going to say that this is the place of his previous elevation, and that is going to be the place where he managed to get enough isolation from the society around him, and yet to have enough place to influence those within that society. So it was the right amount of being there and not being there, and that's the specialness of the Negev to Avram. The Ad Beit El, until Beit El, with the stabilizing top. Not only was Avram satisfied with his own position, but he attempted to change the character of other people and to higher levels, until Beit El, as shown by the stabilizing shape of the reading mark. So he's trying now not just to be in that one place, but rather to spread his influence to other places as well. Ad hamakom, till the place, with the revi'i. So this is going to have a broad meaning to it and stand out by itself. The purpose of his attempts was to establish views among the people with an orientation and direction till the place, as stressed by the wide meaning of a single point of the reading mark, and Makom is sometimes a synonym for one of God's names. So you say in Seder, Baruch HaMakom Baruch Hu. So again, this is one of God's names, and we use it when we do Nichum Avilim, HaMakom Yenachem Etchem. So he's going not only to the place, but he recognizes that God is in that place, and there's a singularity to it, and that is why it gets a Revi'i. Asher Haya, that was, with a Pashta, and we're going to see that we normally have our Pashta on the last syllable of the word. Here we have a rule that is called Nasog Achor. So we're going to look at the next word, Sham. This is a one-syllable word. So the accent can only go on the one syllable. When you have two accented syllables that are going to come together, it is at the least difficult to pronounce. And possibly we don't want to run the two words together. So the note on the previous word gets pushed back. So this is not, as you would normally read it, Asher Haya. This is Asher Haya. That was. So we're going to see if we mention Nasod Achor, number 6. Although beliefs in various gods were established prior to Avram, he kept preaching the belief in one God. That was responsible for creation and will continue to guide the universe eternally, as denoted by the upward directional shape of the reading mark. So again, this is a pashta, so it's an upper note, and I feel that because he's referencing it back to the God of Breshit, that's why it's pushed back. Haya. He was there even before. So
Haya.
So even though he doesn't mention the Nasog Achor, I think it is there in his translation, and we will move on. Sham with a napach, focusing what's come from before and making it a more narrow point. There, number 7, the spirit of Avram had matured and crystallized there. Again, it had become something that was more focused, where he was able to make his first contact with God and establish communication as suggested by the shape of the reading mark. So again, Avram became more narrowed, more focused, more directed to hearing the word of God at this first place where he had first made his tent. Aholo, his tent, number 8, with a pashta, again, focusing us forward and elevating the word. Avram was reasonable in his preachings and modest by his conduct, and he did not expect more from others than from himself. Also, his tent and style of living was an example for others by simplicity and kindness. It was expressed by the directional shape of the reading mark. So how do we read kindness into his tent? The Midrash tells us that Avram's tent had a door on every side, so that anybody approaching from any side would be asked and welcomed to come in. So that's where the kindness comes into the concept of his tent. Batchila, on the beginning, with the two-part katon, the two-part note, possibly one part higher than the other. Although various periods of his life withstanding danger and misery, like the test of wealth, his character was not influenced by any changes in situation, and he remained the same as he was on the beginning, as specified by the bipartite shape of the reading mark. So the way that he was before is the way that he is now, and his possession and change in status hadn't changed him in any way. Bain, between, with a mercha, lightly connected to what's come from before, but mostly moving us forward into what's going to go afterwards. Wherever he settled, he encountered various problems, but he tried to maintain his equilibrium, taking a position between extremes. Aurea mediocritas. surrounded by the others or whatever, as illustrated by the directional shape of the reading mark. Again, moving forward from there to Beit El, which has a tifcha, closes the phrase. He was convinced that in the final result, the will of God, Beit El, would be decisive in the permanent outcome of various situations, as conveyed by the closing shape of the directional reading mark. So the influence of Beit El, the first place where he gets this more direct revelation in the land of Canaan, is going to be something that is going to stay with him and be an inspiration for him and his followers. Uvein, and between, with the mercha lightly connected to what's come from before, but mostly moving us forward to what's going to go afterwards. Avram believed that all the occurrences on earth are only temporary stopovers given periods and between creation, but by the scope of eternity, it will change to another position of the perpetual well, as depicted by the directional shape of the reading mark. So, the influence that he got at Beit El is going to continue to spread and move to other places, such as, number 13, Ha'ai, the eye. Although the location of the eye had not been identified, some of its significance may be deduced from the letters He, Ayin, Yud. We have a note, He, Ayin, Yud, contains the letters of the name of God, Yud and He, and indicates the spiritual creation of the world's Sabbath. Ayin, which is 70, has, so in Gematria you can take a number that's got a 0 afterwards and take the 0 away, so 70 and 7 have the same connotation to them. There's an element of 7 in 70. 7 is the number representative of Shabbat, and constitutes a bridge from beginning until Avram and Yaakov. And even the beginning of the sentence, Vayelech Masa'av, corresponds to the Yaakov halach l'darko. So Avram is going for his journeys, is similar to Yaakov going for his journeys, and I'm trying to think of how this is a bridge between Avram and Yaakov specifically. Can I pause for a second?